We're a unique podcast for families of faith, produced by parents and pastors who understand and appreciate how hard it is to maintain your faith in a hostile culture. We're here to encourage and support you in the most vital role of all, parenting. If you're feeling overwhelmed and afraid, it's okay. You're not alone. Brilliantly Brave is hosted by two honest and engaging dads with 9 kids between them. A road tripper, author, and pastor, Father Brad Mathias, and iShine founder, solo parenting expert, and all-around foodie, Mr. Robert Beeson. Join us each week as we explore and engage with some of the most intriguing, inspiring, outrageous, and awesome parents in the world. This is Brilliantly Brave.
Hi, and welcome to Brilliantly Brave Parenting. It's a different kind of podcast. It's one for parents who are trying to raise their children in a post-Christian culture. And we've been talking several weeks now. We're well into the spring and now summer. And it's been a surprising journey, hasn't it, Robert?
It has. It absolutely has.
I'm your host, Pastor Brad Mathias, and my sidekick here is Robert Beeson.
I really resent the sidekick thing.
Which is why I say it.
You're going to be lucky if I show up next week.
No. There's no reason to be hostile.
You're right.
So the bottom line is that Robert has a new podcast as well, and we want to definitely cross-promote that. It's about solo parents, right?
That's right. Yeah, single parenting, listening to stories of other single parents and experts in the fields that single parents deal with, solo parent society.
Fantastic. And so if you're a solo parent and you're listening to this podcast, we don't want you to stop, but we would encourage you to look up Robert's Solo Parenting Society. It's a really unique challenge to parent kids when there's just one mom or dad in the home. And so we feel like that deserves a full focus and support of its own. So check that out. We are excited. We have an old friend, someone that we've known for several years, and a leader in children's ministry as a guest today, Robert.
That's right. Do you remember the first time we met, Matt? We were at a meeting in Chicago, and we are part of the Tween Gospel Alliance. And one of the guys that works with us, Daniel, said, "Hey, I've got a friend I'd like to bring in to speak at one of our gatherings." And so Matt came in and pretty much floored the room with his insight into the effects of technology and what kids are doing. And I know I sat there just not only with all the facts, but just the way he presented it. So as a communicator, he's awesome, but on top of that, he's an authentic guy that really understands and is trying to do his best to dig into how to reach kids and how to protect their hearts and get to them in an authentic way.
Yeah, I do remember that. It was an amazing talk on technology and engaging preteens. And I remember like scribbling notes down, like, oh my gosh, this is gold. Like,
yes.
This is the stuff that I've really been looking for, because Matt has this unique ability to sort of take sort of an abstract idea and make a concrete response to it, and it's very practical. It's very helpful. Well, Matt is with us today. Matt Guevara is who we're talking about. He's the director of INCM, which is the International Children's Ministry.
International Network of Children's Ministry.
That one too. And he is better known. The reason that's such an awkward phrase for me is because he's better known as the head of CPC, which is the Children's Pastors Conference. Now, that's like the largest children's pastors gathering in the United States and has been for decades, right?
Yeah, what's unique about it to me, at least from my perspective, we can ask Matt more about like his insight, but it's an independent, so it's not attached to a denomination necessarily. So it's a gathering of people that are committed to getting ministry to kids right, and not necessarily just from their own denominational standpoint. So I really appreciate that independent look at things, and it's great to see when you go to these events, this Children's Pastors Conference, all kinds of denominations are gathering to do the same thing, and that is to figure out how can we most effectively reach children.
Yeah, and so we could go on and on about Matt. He has a master's degree. He's been a pastor for 11 years. He has 4 kids, I believe 4 kids. Is it still 4, Matt?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, Matt, welcome to Brilliantly Brave. Thanks for being on today.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, I've worked with you, Matt, over the years. We've partnered on different projects like the Bridge Project, Tween Ministry event. We've worked on really trying to raise the awareness of the preteen and the tween ministry needs within the church universally as a global awareness. Like, are we doing things for preteens? And I can say within the last 3 to 4 years, that awareness has definitely grown, and largely in part because of you.
Well, it's been a pleasure to, serve in the church as a pastor, and also to just explore these new ideas. Like you mentioned, we live in a very unique era of history as it relates to children and the ways that they're learning, the ways that they're growing up, experiencing technology. And those tween years are the tough industrial strength years of parenting and of leading kids, if you're involved in ministry in the church in any way. And so it has been a real pleasure to be involved just in that movement.
Well, as someone who knows you, I can definitely sort of read between the lines. You've not only had to help pastors reach those kids, but you have your own house full as well. Tell us your parenting story, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, my wife, Noelle, and I have been married for 14 years, and we grew up together. So we attended the same church and when we were kids. In fact, I met her when I was 9.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's just pretty early. Yeah.
A love story, unlike any other, or like many others. I'm not sure.
No, I think it's pretty unique.
Yeah, when I was 11, I felt like I knew I was going to marry her. That was an ordained thing.
Wow.
And so I called her. And probably most, of the folks listening know what a phone call is, even though kids probably today don't really know what that is. So I called her on our basement telephone at my house, and I said, "Hey, we're going to get married." And she wasn't as excited as I was about that. I know certainly her dad wasn't as thrilled as I was, but I just knew that was going to happen. And then however many years later, we did get married. And of course, I reminded everyone who didn't believe me when I was a kid that, hey, check out this ring on my finger.
That's crazy. And just as a sidestep here, did you foresee the Cubs winning this year as well? I'm just kidding.
I wish I had.
So we weren't going to talk about this, but obviously you have the gift of prophetic dating.
Yes. Well, and now that, now years later that our oldest, you mentioned we had 4 kids. Our oldest, Isabel, is 12 years old. And, Noelle and I have started having conversation like, what if she came up to us and said, "Mom and Dad, I know who I'm going to marry." What would we say?
No kidding.
So that was just kind of a bizarre thing. So now, we have a 12-year-old and an 11-year-old, Sophia. We also have a 3-year-old, Zion, whom we call Z. And then our youngest, Josie, is 1. So wide span. We say around our house we call Zion and Josie the littles, and Isabel and Sophia the bigs. So we have bigs and littles around our house, and we're just trying to figure it out. It's a loud, adorable, wonderful adventure, and it is not always easy. I think I mentioned earlier there's industrial strength parenting that we all face, and we're certainly headed into that as our bigs are middle school age, and we've done everything from public school to private school to homeschool. We've tried all the schools. Every year we look at what's the best plan for our kids in terms of where they're going for their education. And this coming year, they're actually going to go from being homeschooled into the public school system in our hometown of Rockford, Illinois, Northern Illinois. And so we know we're in for a big change. And so, it's an adventure that Noelle and I do together. It's one that along the way, we've just really banked on having casual conversations and on just parenting each child individually. I think it was comedian Dustin Nickerson who, people always ask, well, what's your parenting philosophy? And this comedian says, well, my parenting philosophy is simply, we do not negotiate with terrorists.
That's great.
It's just, it's guerrilla warfare. You're a parent. Like, that's why I love the title of this podcast being Brilliantly Brave. That's what it is. You got to be brave. It's war. You got to figure it out as you go. There's no handbook. There's
That's so true. That's so true.
So we're just figuring it out, day in and day out, week in, week out, and trying to point our kids to the future we believe, God has for them, and all of the promises and truth from His Word. So I don't know if we're doing it right. Isabel hasn't told us yet that she knows the identity of the person she's going to marry. So maybe we're okay.
Well, I think when that moment comes, you'll have to give us a call back
and let us know how
us know how that went down, because there might be some desperate other parents out there who get the same request. Hey, I know you guys have been very busy keeping up with your children. You are all over the place keeping up with the demands of INCM, all the conferences you do, all the online web training and seminars that you speak at. You're a busy, busy guy, and yet I know you guys are about to release a book. So somewhere in all of that, you guys wrote a book. Can you tell our audience about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that Noelle and I have discovered along the way is that we are a family that is on the go. We are moving. So between, family obligations, sports, things that our kids are involved in, things that we're involved in ministry-wise, church-wise, it's just we're part of a more busy, society and culture. And yet we still want to integrate conversations about spiritual things and faith into the fabric of our family life. And so Noelle and I have been in the process of writing 2 books that will be coming out, one this summer, one this fall, that are family devotionals, one for families with babies and toddlers, and then another for families with preschool and elementary kids. And the whole premise of these is the fact that it is to create opportunities for casual conversations. I think, as parents, we often many times go, well, I don't know how to talk to my kids about spiritual things or open up the Bible. I'm not a theologian. I'm not, especially trained for this. And I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Moms and dads out there, my wife and I do not lead a processional down the stairs with candles and holding a 50-pound leather-bound Bible every week while a choir's singing, to talk to our kids about the Bible. It's just not that formal. And it doesn't have to be either. Most of the time,
yeah,
we're trying to hear each other through tantrums and questions, or just the noise of a house filled with 4 kids and a puppy, because we're crazy. That's why we bought this puppy. So this whole book is each book has 52 devotionals for families, and it's really created around making time for casual conversations about spiritual things, points us to Scripture, and gives us something to talk about and do with our kids.
Can I dig in there a little, because I like what you're saying here, and that is that it doesn't have to. It's not rocket science. Really, it starts with relationship in connecting with our kids. Can you drill down a little bit and give me an example of what you mean by an example of in the book? Like, what are these kinds of discussions that you're talking about? Give me an example of what that might look like.
Yeah, you bet. I think, so when, let's say we're talking about one of the promises of God, those are some things, particularly God's promises, that are easy for us to point our children to. And those are things that we probably don't really talk about very often. So in the book, Noelle and I are just finishing up for families of preschool and elementary kids. We've been trying to think, what are the promises of God that we want our kids to just be rock solid on? And one, that comes to mind from Philippians 4:19 says, "And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus. And, and so we're in terms of talking about that particular verse, we wrote, hey, this week, just become a master noticer. Have you ever stopped to consider just how much you have? And, it's easy, if you've moved to a new home, in recent days, but often we just forget the many ways that God provides for us. And so with our families, what this conversation looks like as we're pointing people to this promise is just to start to recognize and call out the needs being met in your life and in your child's life. Where's God providing? What is he providing? And as you can see, this isn't like again, the processional with the 50-pound, leather-bound Bible. This is just, hey, what do you notice? Hey, guys, look around. Where is God providing? And as we notice God's provision for us, we can really take time to specifically give him praise.
Wow. Yeah, those are the practical things that over time build a foundation of faith for our kids. That's a really, really cool project. Where would our listeners find your books?
Well, right now, because let's see, one comes out this summer, and I just talked to our publisher, Rose Kids Publishing, and they said that they're working with the printer. Both devotionals are full color devotionals, and there's actually prompts for the parents to be writing inside, so it's a very interactive book. But with that, comes that there's a lot more put into the printing of a book like that. So I know you can find them on Amazon and checking dates, I believe. First Steps Together, Family Devotional for Families with Babies and Toddlers comes out in July. And then Journeying Together, the Family Devotional for Families with Preschool and Elementary Kids, comes out in September.
So July and September, those are the dates to go find Matt and Noelle's book. They have really just a long and faithful history of serving the church locally as pastors and then also nationally and internationally as directors with INCM. Matt, it's been our pleasure to have you on our show and podcast today. I know that you have an incredibly hectic, busy life, and yet in the middle of that, you took time to be present with us. How would our listeners be able to follow up with you directly for speaking opportunity or to have you at their church? How could they get a hold of you?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the easiest place to find me is on our website, which is incm.org. And very, very easy to find me there. Also, just my email is Matt, M-A-T-T, at incm.org. And would love to be able to speak in to parents who have questions as well as churches who want to take steps towards family ministry stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Matt. It was truly a pleasure, and we look forward to continuing to journey together.
Thanks, guys.
Parents, remember, even if you may not feel brilliant or brave, you are. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power, and love, and self-control. And I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed. I am convinced that he is able to guard until that day what has been entrusted to me. 2 Timothy 1:7 and 13. This podcast is a service of iShine Ministries and the Tween Gospel Alliance. All rights reserved. Donations to Brilliantly Brave are tax-deductible at iShineLive.com. Review and subscribe to this podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or on our webpage. And read our blog and connect with us at WordPress@BrilliantlyBrave.com. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Brilliantly Brave.
What our kids believe is going to define them for a lifetime. According to George Barna, by the age of 13, what a kid believes is what he'll die believing. For parents and for pastors, that's a frightening experience, especially if you've got an 11 or 12-year-old. At the iShine Ministries headquarters, this became a huge priority in the last year. We partnered with the Tween Gospel Alliance to bring you a brand new resource known as the Shock and Awe Study Guide. And I'm here with one of the co-founders of this entire program, Robert Beeson. Can you tell us what is the Shock and Awe Study Guide?
It is awesome. More than that? Yeah.
Okay.
The Shock and Awe Study Guide is a super cool thing that either a parent can do with their kid, or a youth pastor can do with their students, or a children's pastor can do with their students. And here's the cool thing about it. It is apologetics for kids. So it's the really huge evidence and thoughts of apologetics wrapped in a way that is really tangible and simple for kids to understand, answering 4 primary questions. And they are, what if there's a God? What if the Bible is true? What if Jesus is who he said he was? And what if I'm part of that plan? And we believe if you can answer those 4 questions and you are drawn through evidence proving those 4 questions, that really it's gonna establish a pretty unshakable foundation of faith.
That sounds very helpful, especially if you're a parent or pastor and you're concerned about the condition of your child's faith, what they believe, what the voices of culture are telling them. If that's you and you're interested, go to ishinelive.com and check out in our web store the Shock and Awe Study Guide. It has a digital cloud video base, so it's 4 studies in a small paperback volume for $9, and it has 4 videos that go with 4 studies. It can be done in a weekend, it can be done over a month, or it can be done bi-monthly, however you need it. It is a fantastic resource that I have used as a pastor in my own home church, and I have been impressed. So check it out.
Check it out.